Check. Thank you so much, Vikas, for inciting and giving us some wonderful updates about this and enriching our knowledge towards this. So, thank you. Thank you so much. And now, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having Mr. Sanjay Manwani back, who's joining from India Senior Director from MySQL. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen again. There we go. Okay. I hope this is visible now.
Yes, so kindly do it in the full screen mode, sir, and you'll be ready to go. Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is the best full screen that I can go with. Okay. So then let's, I guess, begin again. Safe harbor. Please don't make decisions on this. This is for information purposes only. Um, Complexity grows, risk grows. I don't think this for this audience. I need to talk about this. There are multiple vectors for attack, and we need to protect every component that we have on your infrastructure, which includes your database, because everything can get attacked, right? And right now, because of high availability, database consolidation, legacy, outsourcing, cloud, these vectors are only increasing. Okay. Um, and as far as any service provider is concerned, there are these so many standards that are needed to be complied with. uh, they are continuous, and basically what these focus on is that you have to continuously monitor everything. You have to understand who your users are, what your schema is, what backups are being taken. There is data protection that you need to have, there is data retention that you need to have, there is auditing of everything that is happening that you need to have. And the you know the cost is very, very high, right? There are We are talking about millions of dollars, 4% of revenue, $500,000. HIPAA have all kinds of crazy number. And if there are breaches, we are talking about 3.62 million per breach that it costs, and typically about 141. If it is US, then it is $225 per you know uh, breach, per line of breach, or per record of breach that you have. So the faster you can find the breach, the lower cost, basically. um, all these things talk about what in general needs to be done, but exactly how it needs to be done, how it is achieved, is totally up to you. So that is totally your call. So how do you look at a security infrastructure? One is, you need to assess, you need to understand what you need to look at for protection with this processes, user profiles, data sensitivity, the risks. Then you need to prevent based on your assessment. Then when the moment that if something is happening, you need to know that this thing is happening. And what do you do for recovery? Those are kind of the four areas, and I'll talk about all four areas, how my skill looks at it. um, right? So as far as MySQL is concerned, there are product features, best practices, white papers, technical documentation, and third-party integrations that we provide to allow you to basically make sure that your goals are reached as far as security is concerned. This is what our entire infrastructure looks is looking at. And at the core, that that red box is your data, right? And we hope that it is there in a very, very secure database. MySQL is one of those databases, so we are hoping that you have it on there. And it is completely secure. I'll start from the top. The first thing that you need to know is exactly how do you give access to this users, you know tables. All that thing is something that you need to look at. Then if we go right, then there's workbench. How do you actually create your database, right? How do you create the columns? Are there any particular columns that have to be more secure? They have to be kept, for example, if credit card information is there, and you may need to make sure that that column has to be more secure than other columns. That's something that we can do. Enterprise monitor, basically it monitors everything: the number of users that are there on your running database, the number of queries that are happening on your running database. That is something that is taken care by the enterprise monitor, which you can see. You can look using graphs, not only just by looking at it. So there is actually a tracking graph that you can look at. and in one shot, and it also sends out mails and all those things. I will go into details. Then there is key vault. Key vault basically manages your password. It automatically rotates the keys, it changes things, and there is this centralized key vault that you can integrate with. Either you can take Oracle's key vault, or if you want to integrate with, say, Gemalto, or all these different key vaults that you have, you can just make sure that your keys are managed by those vaults. Then there is encryption. We basically make sure everything is encrypted, the data itself is encrypted, and even the way you access it, when it's going in, going out, all the connections are also encrypted. Any log files that are there in the middle, which are tracking the transactions, which are tracking sessions, tracking users, all those things are also kept encrypted. Then we have high availability. Basically, there are multiple nodes. So if one node fails, automatically the other node kind of takes over and works on it. That's automatically happening. We have enterprise backup. So enterprise backup, I always say, it's like like an insurance policy. If all else fails, everything crashes out, you at least can go back to a previous time when you have taken your backup. So if it's a 15-minute backup, you can go back to 15 minutes, because at that time you can be sure that okay, everything is fine. You have a setup that is there 15 minutes ago. Then, as I said, there is audit. So you can audit, you can know exactly who accessed, where, what is the data that was taken, everything, those kind of things. And remember, this is kept in a separate audit vault, so it is separated from everything else. And then there is a firewall. This firewall, I will go into details, but basically it monitors who's accessing, when are they accessing, are there any limits that they are crossing. So yeah, let's get into detail. Let's get into access. Basically, the enterprise monitor, it says, it talks about account assessment and reporting, and then there's workbench, which basically your data model itself is taken care of, right? And then we give you these security best practices and guidelines that you can use. Let me get into details of the monitor. So monitor is our kind of our key thing. It looks at everything that is happening in a running database. Um, Everything that is happening is being captured in a third party, kind of a third database, which is just a monitoring database. So who's accessing, how much time are they taking, where are they in their whole data process. So when you're accessing data, there is, you're allowed a session. Then the session creates an initial kind of map of what it needs to access. Then it takes a lock, and then it accesses the data, then it fetches the data. So all those stages are monitored here, how much time each of those stages taking for each and every of your basically script or SQL that you've given it. It just takes care of everything, right? And it is used for monitoring, password monitoring, schema change, backup. It monitors everything. It knows exactly what people are doing at any time in a running database, right? And if you look at Schneider Electric, they've said, I definitely recommend MySQL Enterprise Monitor DBS. Basically, if you don't know anything, if you just look at the graphs, you can find out exactly what's happening. Then how do you prevent? Basically, there is TDE. I will talk about TDE a little bit, transparent data encryption. There is firewall that we will talk about a little bit. And there is enterprise security. This is basically a centralized authentication infrastructure. I'll talk about it a little bit. Then there is, there are these best practices with this IP whitelisting, connection limits. There are, ways of doing it. If you look at our best practices, those are there. And we have full support for in-transit encryption. So anything that is being accessed, or on the way, in the middle, right, when the data is between server 1, server 2, if you are basically, if in your infrastructure and multiple nodes, the data is being exchanged, everything is encrypted. So we take care of that. So what is TDE? TDE looks at, one is the data at rest. So anything that is stored on disk, on storage, that is encrypted. Then as far as users are concerned, when users access the data, there is the link between the user and the database, that is encrypted. And then as far as the DBAs are concerned, when they are, even when the DBAs are accessing anything, everything is encrypted. So and DBAs and users don't need to know anything. And at the background, there is always this key management, which is that how do you manage, how do you rotate the passwords, how do you ensure that your central keys that protect this encryption are taken care of. So that's something that we do. Um, and then there is enterprise authentication. This is your centralized account management, password policy management. Your password is going to expire after 2 months, 3 months, whatever you say, or weeks if you want. what kind of passwords people can keep, and then all those policies are automatically implemented the moment the passwords expire. The people are sent mails and everything like that. Then you can have groups and roles. So you create a role for a group, and then you basically assign that group role to a person. That you can automatically do. We and this integrates directly with your Windows Active Directory. So we don't expect you to create new bunch of users for MySQL. If you have your Windows Active Directory or Linux PAM or LDAP, you basically integrate MySQL with that, and automatically knows, okay, these are the users that are there, and then those roles and everything can be assigned to those users. Quickly about firewall. Firewall is basically, it monitors everything first, and then once you put it in the protect mode, then it stops things from happening. So if it has seen a certain transaction happening, it'll allow it. If it has not seen a certain transaction that is happening, if a user is using, he always looks at 5 tables, and now he's looking at 20 tables. You can say, okay, allow it, or you can block it, or you can detect it. So allow it means let it go. Block is basically to say, you've never done this, please talk to your DB and then get an access to it. Or you detect it, that means the information is sent by email or by any kind of way. An event can be popped up on the enterprise monitor, and those kind of things can be done. So this is kind of, again, automatic. It learns, and once it learns, it kind of stops people. Right. So this is what firewall is. It's real time. Queries are analyzed and matched against the whitelist. Whitelist is created by just in the protect mode. Whatever injection attacks, anybody access doing something that is it doesn't know about, it's going to stop it, or it's going to tell you that um, it's something crazy is happening. Right. It learns the whitelist, and it is again transparent, and it is it's there since a long time basically. That's what we talk about. Talking a little bit about audit. Audit is, again, as I said, we this is something that is, you must keep information of who has accessed what, changed what, modified, modified any tables, modified any access rights. All those, that information is something that you need to take care of. And audit is what keeps a different trail that is encrypted separately and basically sent back into audit vault, so that people people, anybody can't access it, right? And these are very protected pathways. So these pathways cannot be cracked. So there are special privileges on to be able to access it. And also, as far as the data itself is concerned, it is kept away from the database, so that even if a person has an access to the database, the audit data is not something that they can access. That is available only if there is a breach or there's a problem, and there are special requirements for being able to access it. So you enable it the moment the user connects from a host. There is an audit file that is created, and this basically, you can review the audit events, but basically all the information is sent into an audit file, audit vault. And this is all information in JSON, so you can view it in different ways. There are all kinds of reports that can be created. Let's finally talk about recovery. Let us suppose there is a breach and there is a problem and you need to take care of it. Then there is the whole enterprise backup, which is completely encrypted, completely transparent. You don't even know it's happening. You just go on with anything that you're doing, changes and things, and then you can just the backup happens, and you can go back to the last backup that was taken, and at least you are kind of, it's your insurance policy to come back. And as I said, there is audit that you can look at, what happened, why it happened, how it can be prevented in the future. So, and then there is also this high availability, as I said. So let us suppose that there are, instead of having just one database server, there are multiple database servers or nodes. If one goes down, the second one automatically takes over. And there are different kind of replication topologies. We have, I think, MySQL. The one reason for popularity of MySQL is the fact that we have got extremely good replication, and there are crazy amount of topologies that you have. You can have half on the web and half, on site, and all kinds of crazy topologies are possible. I won't be able to go into details of all those. On top of that, whether it is encryption, hashing, RSA, all these kind of encryption, decryption things, they can be integrated into MySQL, and you can say, okay, when I am accessing my database, these are the policies, or these are the ways that you need to use to be able to access the database or to be able to protect it. All these things are we basically support them. um, there are a bunch of resources. I'm planning to make sure that you guys have links to and all these things. And we talk about these in detail, right? We are popular because of the fact, in fact, we are the most popular database, open source database out there, because of all these features that we have as far as security is concerned, which we are very, very happy about. And these are the references we want can look at: enterprise, authentication, firewall, TD, everything you can look at and work on that. I think with that I'm done. Thank you so much, and I hope I'm not disconnected now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Malwani, for enriching our knowledge towards this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of all our keynote addresses for the day. Our three parallel track sessions will begin shortly in some time from now. And I hope all of you are having a great time interacting with all our industry leaders and subject matters experts at FinSec 2022. So, yes, I request all of you guys to kindly join us at the separate stages, at the stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And we request all of you guys to kindly come back to the main auditorium at sharp 3 p.m. as we are going to be having the fireside chat about the topic called New Age Banking, the Key Imperatives, where we're going to be having two keynote speakers who will talk about this. So I will see all of you guys at sharp 3 p.m. at the auditorium to join us. Thank you.